somebody told me that I was young in an interview in 2023, and that was kind of the moment where I was like, well, I wonder how many more years I can get away with being called young in an interview.
You should call them back and be like, sucker, I'm a year older.
Oh, I should do that with every interview, actually, every year. Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Ellie Blue, the Vice President of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we are going to talk about 2023.
God, that was so long ago.
A year in review.
When even was that? 2023?
That was about a week ago.
We were so young.
I know. Well, we're still young. That's the good news. 2023. Lots of things happened in 2023.
It was a big year.
We were the third fastest growing publisher in Publishers Weekly's year in review.
That was like looking at 2022's numbers, though, right?
It's 2021 and 2022's numbers.
But because in 2023, what we actually did for the year is we had a strategy of stabilizing and regrouping because we had been growing so fast. Things had gotten a little out of hand. So,
in all likelihood, yeah, that was sort of the strategy, is because we've been funding our growth with cash, we knew that we couldn't have limitless perpetual growth and self-financing, and then now that interest rates are much higher than they were in previous years, it actually wouldn't make a ton of sense to do that. It would make more sense to rebuild all the systems to our current scale that were built for when we were about 25% of our current size.
So we made that decision, and then we immediately turned around and bought a new building.
Yeah. Right. In April, we were offered the option to purchase the warehouse next door to our warehouse, which we did. And we've spent the last 9 months constructing the 5 feet of cinder block between them.
Really just awaiting the permits to do so.
Yeah. And there's been lots and lots of that. But, there's been lots of other good things too. We just saw lots of changes overall. One of the major initiatives in 2023 was creating leveling for our staff, which is essentially having a path and a way for everybody to know how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and, to make sure that pay is fair and equitable.
Yeah, so we have a wage framework, and it's tied to performance and responsibility metrics, and it's, nothing's perfect, but it's so much better than, our system when we had 9 people of just kind of figuring out what everyone should be doing and getting paid, and it was pretty easy to compare everyone to each other, but that doesn't work with 30 people across multiple states.
Yeah, and a lot of that really comes down to, you could read limitless management books about this, but usually what happens is the people that are the squeakiest get the most reward.
Yeah.
And so we really struggled with the way, and this eliminates problems of bias and problems of discrimination and problems of just when you have a bigger company too, a lot of people can kind of be silent and invisible, and you want to make sure that they get paid fairly too, even if they're not doing a lot of self-advocacy.
Yeah.
So we built that. Ellie built that. I didn't really do anything. I just looked at it and said yes. And then we saw some major market shifts. Independent bookstores have been growing, partly because of what we've been publishing. According to Ingram, this is because they're better at marketing and brand ambassadorialship than independent bookstores were in the past. Independent Gift struggled a little bit in 2023. They were understocking and thus having fewer sales because they were apprehensively ordering. And that happened a bit too with bookstores, but with the bookstores, they have the advantage of they can just get next day shipments from Ingram. So, whereas the independent gift shops, if it's not on the shelf, they're kind of losing the sale. So,
but we signed the new gift rep, Emerald, which is super promising. Great people.
And figure this one out. Special sales independent retailers were like way up. Those were, so it kind of flipped where in 2022 gift was 36% of our total sales, whereas in 2023 that was closer to 22%, but special sales now took the place and the market size of gift. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't foresee that. I thought they would kind of stabilize where they were. So different stores.
What else happened in 2023?
Right. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I do feel like so much of our work was spent on just giving everybody less to be frantic about and greater expectations.
And we were able to do quite a good round of profit sharing at the end of the year.
That's true. Yeah, we did a pretty small amount in 2022. And then we did a bigger one in 2023. And yeah, we, again, a lot of the notion of stability and sizing to scale at our current scale rather than a scale we occupied 5 years ago is that we are met with fewer surprises as managers, as well as like our staff is met with fewer surprises in their daily work where, it still happens, but it's less common to be like, oh, by the way, I need you to do that this week.
Yeah.
But in general, you don't want too many shockers.
Yeah, we did a lot of like writing documentation and honing in our systems and having just long conversations about like who says what and then what happens.
Yeah.
Which is not like the most exciting stuff, but it really makes a difference.
Right. And so like, I now have 3 people in my operations department and a lot of it, yeah. So it's like tasks that I used to just perform. I now write the documentation and I train them and then they do those tasks because I'm realizing that otherwise I just never can get to doing those things, or if I do, it's from having to work more hours or neglecting other tasks.
But yeah, it was a good year. How did we do like financially?
We were down about 14% over 2023, which was our best sales year ever.
2022?
Oh yes, I'm saying over 2022. And so that's partly intentional. Like we didn't, we kind of saw the writing on the wall where we were like, okay, well, we could keep pumping money into this and keep growing and keep outgrowing systems and warehouses and structures, or we could size to scale and then make this a very comfortable size for us.
So we were still up over 2021, right?
Yes, we were up around, not a lot, but we were up about 10% over 2021.
And I've worked here since the very end of 2014. And this is the first year that we weren't up significantly over the year prior, and I'm actually really relieved.
Yeah. And that's, and it's interesting, yeah, because we're, the amount we did once upon a time, we were like, one day we'll make $1 million in a year, and then now that's, yeah.
That kind of passed us by, and then the state of Oregon was like, now you owe us more taxes.
Right. And so things like that are what happens if you grow too fast, is that you will not necessarily be suited or prepared for all the things that changes for you.
One of my goals this year is to get our fees and penalties to 0 for everything that we do, which seems very reasonable. We have systems for it all now.
Yep.
What are your goals for this year?
Really, yeah, it's a lot of it is just creating metrics and just ways to evaluate the functionality and success of various systems.
Oh yeah, 2024 is our year of measurement.
And so I kind of stumbled upon that when I was preparing for a presentation that I was making, where I was like, that's actually the thing, because I think for a lot of people, the only metric they think of is like sales growth, whereas that's just like one of many metrics. And it's like not the most, that's like a smoke and mirrors kind of metric, because lots and lots of people can create perpetual sales growth, but they're losing money every year while they do it. So we can't afford to do that. So, this is another thing where we measure differently.
2023 was our year of education. We did a ton of like all staff sessions with education about everything from like the value chain and leverage to like how our sales department works. I don't even remember what else. And that worked really well. Like, we have definitely had way fewer people be like just completely misunderstanding why we're doing what we're doing. Like, we've had, I think it's freed people up to ask more questions about like the specifics of their job and how that fits in, rather than like, why would we make this choice?
Yeah. Or like misinterpret it worse. That's typically if somebody doesn't understand something, their intuition is to misinterpret it rather than to ask for clarification, because that's like how the brain works.
Storytelling brains, like Dr. Faith says.
So it's like if they've had a problem before, their brain will be like, it's that problem again. Whereas, if the more context you offer, the less confusion there is.
Well, thanks for joining us for a wonderful 2023. We hope you're feeling stable and ready to launch into 2024 yourself.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.